Hi, ma'am. Okay na
Ayun.
po.
Okay
Okay.
na.
Loud and clear, sir.
You can share your slides if you have one.
Okay, ma'am. Sige po.
All right, we are already streaming on YouTube. Oh, wow. No hiccups for today. Excellent. Sige po, Sir Greg. I'll make you co-host. There you go.
Okay po, ma'am.
You should be able to share na po.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay.
Anytime you're ready.
So, I'll just introduce siguro si Greg first.
Sure thing, ma'am. Go ahead po.
Yeah. We have 19 participants via Zoom. Hindi ko lang alam kung ilan sa YouTube. But today, our speaker is Engineer Greg Ortiz. He's a graduate of he's a BSECE, a graduate of EEE, and he also took his master's degree and MSEE under me. I was his advisor. And what is interesting about him is that he's been part of a successful startup. Upon graduation, he joined the Maynilad Water Services. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Maynilad. It's just across the street from UP Diliman, which is the largest private water concessionaire serving 17 cities and municipalities in the metropolitan Manila area. Okay, so he was the technical services officer there under the telemetry department. And during his work for water, yung electronics essentially, for water, most of the other engineers that he worked with are not actually ECE or from EEE. They're mostly from civil engineering. Okay. So may pagka-interdisciplinary yung nature ng work niya. Unlike if you're working in smart grid, for instance, because if you're familiar with the smart grid as a field, it's the power systems that you're monitoring. So medyo familiar yung mga EEE students there. But when you're working with water, the concepts are different. So it's an interesting topic essentially. Okay. So yung providing technology solutions for water utilities, and as part of his work there, he was able to start up form. Okay, part of a startup, Hiraya Water, which siya na lang magkukwento how it came to be. Okay, from October 2014 up to January 2018. And right now, he's based in Melbourne, Australia, under ADS Environmental Services, which is a provider of products and services for wastewater monitoring. So his topic for today, I requested him to share his journey and his experience with being an entrepreneur, being part of a startup company, and his the graduate studies, okay, in the field of the water industry. So I'll turn you over to Greg.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Ayan. So thank you for that introduction. Basically, yun na yung talk.
Sorry, nag-giveaway ka.
Ayun, ma'am.
Hindi naman.
Ano? Hindi naman. Pero,
spoiler ba ng plot?
Hindi naman, ma'am. Pero, ayun. Basically, yun yung ginawa ko since graduating from EEE. So, dito sa talk natin ngayong hapon, I just want to share my experiences with you. Hopefully, may matutunan kayo. may makuha kayong insights about if any one of you would be considering a career in the water industry. Certainly ako nung undergrad ako, it wasn't really top of mind going into the water industry. Most ng mga naisip ko nun is about software companies or semicon companies. So I just want to give you a bit of an insight about how it is to work in this industry, how I got into how we formed our startup, and also while doing all this, pursuing uh, graduate degrees, a graduate degree as well. So yeah. So let's start with this. Okay. So since ang talk na to is for EEE 190, I think. So in a few in a few months time or konting steps na lang, you would be earning your hopefully you'll be earning your diploma, and it's a question of really what will you do after. So a few years ago I was on the same boat. So anong gagawin mo after you get your diploma or you pass the board exam? So the most popular option, of course, is to pursue a career, to start working, to earn an income, to apply what you've learned in your undergrad studies, um, or you pursue a, a graduate degree, pwedeng MS, PhD, MBA, or whatever. Continue mo muna yung pag-aaral mo and then mag-work ka later on. Or for example, you want to build a startup. You have you have a great idea, you have a great project, maybe arising from your thesis, or you met people who have a great idea and you want to pursue it. That's also an option um, after graduating from college. So for me, these things I was doing within 2 years after graduation. I was already doing these three things at the same time. So it's not really this talk won't isn't really like how kung paano mo siya pagsasabayan. I mean, hindi siya yung okay, how to balance these three things at the same time. Because it doing these three things at the same time, or two of these three things, it may not be for everyone actually. Um, but I just want to share my experiences with you. So for me, doing these three things, I was doing it in the water industry. I found my career, my my startup business, and the studies I was pursuing was all in the water industry. So so for the first part, I'll just give you uh, some history on how I got started in the water industry. So strangely enough, I got my start in the water industry because in my undergrad, I was part of the mobile robotics laboratory. So medyo weird, di ba? What does robotics have to do with water? But it's I suppose it was the interest in robotics, in in the same aspects of robotics that attracted me to a career in the water industry. So this is our thesis back then, Rosemary, or a robotic system with an expandable and modular architecture. And this is our robot. Basically, it's a robot with a vision system with a Kinect, with some sensors on it, and then you control its movement using a website. Um, so my part dito sa thesis na to was on the sensors, which has um, like proximity sensors and like accelerometers and all that. Um, so what I liked about it, or what interests me about it, is that in dealing with sensors with instrumentation, there is really a lot to do. Um, so, for example, when you're doing environmental monitoring, like you want your robot to sense the environment, we have different types of sensors. So you have a sonar sensor that is the more wide beam of the uh, of the sensors, and then you have your infrared sensors, which are like more of mid distance, and then you have your bump sensor um, for close distance when something is about to hit the robot. So um, the design of using these sensors to control something as complex as a robot, it's really a difficult, or there's really a big challenge to it. One, because you're dealing with hardware, you're dealing with the sensors, you're dealing with the motors, um, you're dealing with other physical sciences as well, like the sound of the sonar, light, the velocity of the robot, all these things. You're programming with software. You have to tell how often you'd be getting the data from your sensors. You have to interpret the data in order to make sense of it. You have to do analysis, and you have to determine if it's good or bad. All these things. There's a communications aspect to it, whether wired or wireless. Um, and of course, it's interdisciplinary. Um, I was working with four other people who were working on different modules of the project, and even there's challenge. You have to work and respect what the other people are doing. So for me, that was like the kind of career that I wanted, or an industry that would challenge me in different aspects, like doing hardware and software, and uh, dealing with real life phenomena, all those things. But yun, hindi ko pa alam kung saan ako lulugar actually. So in terms of work, I wanted to find a work, syempre, dahil for economic reasons. But at the same time, I wanted to do my master's early on as well. Um, yung end goal ko neto noon is eventually I wanted to teach And at the same time, I wanted do my masters kapag uh, and do something in research that was related to the industry. So considering all this, I when I luckily I got an offer from Maynilad Water, which is, as a mom said, is just across the street from UP. So for me, it was like napakaswerte nung opportunity na to na I would be working. I was imagining the scenario na I'd be working from 8 to 5 in the and then in the evening I would be taking my masters. Um, certainly marami ang advice na nakuha ko noon, ah, marami kasing hindi natatapos sa masters kasi minsan mahirap talaga yung yun nga yung may commitment ka to do evening classes or Saturday classes, to do the thesis. Certainly yung pagiging across the street lang nung opisina ko was a big plus. It really helped me um, in finishing, in being able to finish my master's. Um, so I was hired in the telemetry department of Maynilad. So for those who don't know what telemetry is, ito yung etymology niya. Um, Tele means remote and metron means measure. So essentially, it's remote measurement. Um, so in the context of water, what does this mean? So for example, you have water in a pipe moving this way, for example. Um, you have you have sensors like let's say ultrasonic sensors, and then you measure the time it takes um, for your beam to 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 cross the pipe, and then you have like a transmitter that will be sending the data to a server, and then you process all that data, and then it gets used by your customers, internal customers in the case of a water utility. So different departments like water supply and all the other departments. So uh, itong system na 'to, mahahalin tulad mo siya dun sa system na dinescribe ko later on. It has a hardware component. You're measuring something that is physical. There's a communications component to it. Um, you have software that is used to aggregate or process the data. There's data analytics. You use analysis of data, and of course, it's an interdisciplinary endeavor as well. So, there. For me, this is what attracted me to a career in telemetry to instrumentation. Um, and if you're into like this, to have if you're into the challenge of dealing with all of these components, it's certainly a career that I would suggest. In terms of working with other engineers, with engineers of other disciplines, what I really found helpful was the concept of the the analogies between the electric model and the water model. So we were taught like the capacitor is a capacitor you is essentially a device that stores charge, much like a water tank. Um, so nung tinuro sa amin to nung triple E 31, yung pinakaunang subject, that was the intention na mas maintindihan mo yung electricity part kasi uh, may example about sa water. Pero for me, baliktad yung naging use ko sa kanya. Since at this point, alam mo na yung electricity concepts, it helps you understand better what the water concepts are. So for example, you have you encounter I when in the time that I encountered a check valve. So what is it? What is a check valve? So if you look it up, a check valve only allows water to flow in one direction. So essentially, it's a diode. So that sort of um, that sort of analogy was really very helpful for me. And if you train yourself to understand these sorts of analogies, not just in you would be able to communicate with all sorts of engineers, whatever the discipline. So para sa akin, mahalagang skill to, especially if you're going to an industry where you're working wide range of with a wide range of specializations. So essentially, telemetry in water operations is the challenge of keeping this system running. Okay, so it's what we do. Like water utilities need these types of information, like whether it's a water flow, water pressure, that type of information to be able to service their customers. So dati we had dashboards that our operational groups would be able to see, so that so that makikita in real time what was happening to our system. So pagka may area na nawala ng tubig, malalaman agad. And then address ng operational groups. And there was also a system for like you receive text when that happens. These types of systems so are what telemetry is all about. So keep this system running and give alerts to your customers in case of emergency, so that you help with the basic service of providing clean water to your customers. In terms of entrepreneurship naman, so part ng naging work ko is examining, like evaluating all sorts of technologies na gustong magbenta sa company. So, ang nakita ko is there's really a gap in technology. Like, sometimes there are really good products, but they aren't really suited for the settings we have here in the Philippines. Minsan, yung mga systems is nakadependent na dapat mabilis yung internet mo, or so it could be like a gap in communications, or your system has to operate in a certain way. So iba yung operational requirements niya, or minsan yung pangangailangan ng system natin simply doesn't exist. No one is manufacturing that kind of product. So um, this was a gap na naramdaman ko talaga. A lot of companies uh, certain companies from the UK, they produce certain products na um, they really they that are suited for like a first world setting, and then when they expand their market, they sell to countries like ours. But madalas, minsan or madalas, hindi siya suitable. So yung gap na in technology na to, apparently hindi lang siya hindi lang pala ako yung nakaramdam nito. So um, there were four other engineers in Maynilad. Uh, Here they are, who approached me isang beses. They were from different departments of the company, and they approached me. They told me, um, because they heard na I was working with microcontrollers. They had an idea, and they wanted to see if this idea was feasible. And yun, alam nila na nag-work din ako sa Maynilad. So yun, they approached me, and when they described it to me, naintindihan ko kung ano yung kailangang mangyari. I think I had been with Maynilad telemetry for about a year at this time. I understood enough about water network operations that I could have an idea of how this was happening. This could happen, how you could implement this. So, in this idea, we used to join Idea Space. So, Idea Space is an annual startup competition, and among more than 600 entries, we were one of the 10 winners for it. So, with our entry RTAP, which is an real-time adjusting pump system, na it allows water utilities to operate their pumps in a very efficient way. They save a lot of water, they save a lot of money. So really, itong system na nagawa is really is a no-brainer for a lot of utilities. So yeah. So ang masasabi ko is yung really ang gusto ko is ma-encourage ko kung sino man sa inyo is who wants to pursue an idea. If you think personally at this point, I felt na parang hindi fair. Parang hindi fair, 'di ba, na some developed countries have access to certain technologies, and tayo wala tayong access sa certain technologies kasi walang gumagawa nun para sa atin eh. So I think that was the idea about our company. So when we won this competition, it came with a lot of support. So we got 500,000 pesos in terms in in cash as a seed money, and also training like this one from AIM. They entered us into entrepreneurship development. They helped us develop our patents and all sorts of support. Um, and ayun nga, masasuggest ko rin na if you have a startup idea, join the idea space competition kasi it's a very rigorous process. Kung gusto mo talagang mapiga yung idea mo, it's a it's a hard process, it's a rigorous process. Ma mapipiga mo talaga yung idea mo until you develop it into something that is um, feasible and marketable. Um, so on the side of Maynilad naman, we were really also very lucky kasi nirecognize ng company yung achievement namin na nanalo kami uh, sa idea space. They actually helped us. Um, they actually helped us by giving us I think a 4 month sabbatical leave. So we were allowed 4 months paid leave uh, to pursue our idea. So parang while we were doing training with idea space and IAM and all these things, we were on leave pero sumisweldo pa rin kami. So it was really lucky for us that this company was helping us uh, um, was really supporting innovation by its own employees. And also we were featured in the company newsletter. So ayan. So ayan. Um, so we decided to call our company Hiraya Water. So yung Hiraya is an old Tagalog word which means imagination. And for those na hindi maaring hindi gets yung reference, there was an old unless siguro ka age ko, there was an old TV show in ABS dati na Hiraya Manawari. It was a fantasy show. So it gets it also uses that word Hiraya, which means imagination, which is really what what we wanted to do with the company. So better water beyond imagination. So it's reimagining what you can do with water. It's reimagining what what products, what services you can provide to developing countries like ours. So the next part of my talk is graduate studies naman. So while all these were happening, I was also pursuing my graduate degree, my MS. So if kung sino man sa inyo ang gusto mag-pursue ng graduate degree, you have to answer this question fairly early. Do you do it full-time or part-time? So ako, obviously, ginawa ko siya part-time. So I would work 8 to 5 and then I would work and then I would study after work. And then hindi lang siya syempre yung pag-attend ng class. There's homeworks and projects and all these things. You have to read papers. depende sa mga subjects na kukunin mo, siyempre kung ano yung amount of time na kakainin niya sa buhay mo. There was a time when na pinag-isipan ko to dati. Kung nag full-time ako, I think at that time, it was possible for you to finish your master's in if you're doing it full-time in 1.5 to 2 years. Mine took 4 years doing it part-time. So after after I was working already for 1 year, for about 1 or 1.5 years, parang sinabi ko sa sarili ko, dapat bang nag full-time na lang ako para at least tapos na. Kung nag full-time lang ako at this time, tapos na eh. Parang nakaraos na, tapos na yung part na yun ng buhay ko. Pero looking back, I'm happy with how it turned out. Doing doing all these things at the same time, because it gave me a different kind of insight. So number one, it gave me a better appreciation how my work affected others. So when I took when I as part of the MSEE in UP, there's you can take electives in other departments as well. So I was taking this data mining course in computer science, and it's different na parang yung pinag-aralan namin doon is more of data analytics. How do you get like, so the basic idea is you have all this data and it's virtually impossible. It's too much data to handle on your own. So you run a machine to get some insights on it. So what you have to do is you have to clean your data and then do some other processing on it. You do some clustering or whatever sort of algorithm until you get some insights. And for me, that I was because I was practicing instrumentation, it was really an insight for me. Kasi sa amin galing yung data eh. So like in a lot of algorithms, it's what they call garbage in, garbage out. Minsan kung pangit talaga yung data mo, hindi rin maganda yung insights or yung learning, yung machine learning na makuha mo. So for someone who is working in instrumentation, working in sensors, it was really a big insight na dapat may certain quality na ibibigay ka dun sa mga customers mo. Also, it helped me understand the history of and context of how technologies were being developed. So, example ko dito is about when we were talking about network technologies. So dati nung undergrad, before I was working, kapag napunta dito yung topic, you always deal with how these technologies were developed, like Aloha, slotted Aloha, these sorts of things. You learn them na ganito yung problema dati, so ganito yung solution, and then nag-develop sila ng ganitong algorithm, and then so on and so forth. But when you're working, because I was dealing with communication problems with uh, with our system day in and day out, it was learning all these things. Um, it's a different experience because you get some ideas. Oh, pwede palang ganito gawin. Yung data, pwede mo siyang chop-chopin and then isend isend in different paths, or store mo muna siya, padala mo later on uh, when the channel was not busy, or that sort of those sorts of things. So for me, in my career, it was really helpful because you are engaging, you are learning while you are working. Um, so yung natutunan mo, na pwede mo siya i-apply sa trabaho mo. And at the same time, yung mga na-experience mong problema, na technical na problema sa work, pwede mo siya um, pwede mo siya i-bring up sa class din, na ganito yung nangyayari, ano kaya yung uh, pwede mo siya i-consult sa professor mo. So yun. And also, what I really liked is it taught me how to read critically. So you guys may already know about um, how to read a paper, how to read an academic paper. Um, like you don't do it just in one pass. Like you don't read it from start to middle to end. You read it in three passes. Na sa una yung abstract lang muna, and then yung uh, like headings ng paper, and then yung conclusion, and then in subsequent na pagbabasa, you go much deeper into the material. I found, for me, I really found myself na I was applying this type of reading much more in hindi lang sa hindi lang sa academic papers. When I read um, autobiographies or non-fiction books, parang ganun mo na ini-engage yung material eh. Hindi na siya, hindi ka lang actively, hindi ka lang passively uh, dumadaloy kung paano yung sinulat ng author. At the same time, you also learn how to read your papers in relation with other papers. You learn to read papers with its context in history, kung paano siya na-develop, kung saan like certain algorithms came from uh, other algorithms before it. So working in technology, working in a startup, magiging aware ka rin. And of course, um, yung product mo, magkakaroon siya ng napakaraming iterations. So it's you will really appreciate how your technology will be evolving in the context of other technologies. Um, and also, for graduate studies, um, napakahalaga ng kung sino yung magiging advisor mo. So, itong picture na to was when I we presented in Bangkok back in 2015. Wala kasi akong makitang picture namin ni ma'am na magkasama. I remember na when I was when I first applied sa masters and I had to find an advisor, hindi ko talaga alam kung sino yung lalapitan ko. Kasi I wanted to do something na related sa work ko. Um, related sa work ko in and so in the water industry, and I wanted to do something in wireless sensor networks. And I don't think there was anyone in Triple E who was doing something similar. So I'm really thankful na si ma'am took a chance on me na to go on this topic and to develop a thesis around wireless sensor networks in the water industry. So ayan. So eventually um, natapos din ako. Um, ito yung name ng thesis ko, which is data validation and reconstruction for water distribution monitoring systems, which I presented in 2017. So ayan. So it was really a work na matagal naming dinevelop, and it's really um, it was really something na I was proud of, na syempre wala namang there was in Tripoli no one was working on this space, and then I was able to produce this kind of work. um, so yun, um, it's really this work, ano talaga siya, parang it was a part of it was an experience from syempre from working in the industry, and at the same time you have uh, to to place it in the work na um, to place it in terms of sa current research. So ayun, so kung sino mang may time sa inyong magbasa nito, nasa library yan. So yun, ayan. So this work, basically ito yung end chapter nung graduate studies part um, nung nung story ko. Ayan. And then in a few months time, I also left my NILAD. So ito yung mga ano ko, mga farewell celebration ko nun. It was really hard for me na syempre iwan mo yung mga kasama mo for close to 5 years. And in a few months time, umalis din ako sa Hiraya Water. And then I moved to Australia. So yun. So yun yung kwento ko. And after a few years, I found myself back in the telemetry space again, because I found na yun yung ano ko talaga, yun yung interest ko. So as a parting message, ang advice ko is, in your career, you should choose a field that engages you. Like it could come from really from what you're doing in your thesis, what aspects of your thesis or the works you've been doing are engaging you in the career. In that, in entrepreneurship, be sensitive to the gaps in technology na kaya nyo i-address. Especially yung mga types ng issues na feel mo hindi fair na bakit sila merong ganon. Like, so I'd really encourage you to if you have an idea like that, pursue it. And in your graduate studies, you should know yourself. Like, does the approach I did, working 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 while studying, is not certainly not for everyone. But for me, in retrospect, it was the right choice. Yung time kasi ng buhay ko noon, I wanted to do my master's, but yung father ko, who was the breadwinner of of our of our family, was retiring. So kailangan ko rin mag-earn ng income, and I wanted to earn an income from a stable company. And yung yung opportunity na yun, swerte na nakakita ako ng ganong opportunity while I was when I had an offer in Maynila. For some people, I have a friend na sabi niya sa akin, hindi ko kayang gawin yung ginawa mo na nag-aaral ka and nagtatrabaho kasi alam niya sa sarili niya madidistract siya. So what she did was she did her grad studies sa ibang bansa because she knew na mahihirapan siya kapag ginawa niya sabay with work or like with having all these distractions like maybe social distractions or whatever. Maybe an MS is not for you. Maybe you want to do your PhD, so or you want to pursue MBA or something. So you really have to know yourself. You really have to know your circumstances. And minsan, halimbawa, pwede rin na maybe a thesis is not necessarily for you. So may option din na yung Masters of Engineering, may ganun ding option if you're going to EEE. So yan, I guess that's the end of my talk, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg.
Okay.
Napaka-heartfelt na. Actually, Greg I forgot to mention, he graduated BSECE 2012. And if you think about it, that was just 8 years ago. Parang, na-imagine mo ba 8 years ago, nung graduate ka na, ganito yung maaabot mo in 8 years time?
Certainly hindi, ma'am. Actually, ang daming ang nagbago since then kasi actually, di ba yung na-mention ko na kaya ako nag-masters kasi gusto ko rin magturo, pero actually hindi ko yung nagawa. It's still nasa checklist ko pa rin yun at some point. Sana na magka-opportunity ako magturo. I think ayun, yun pa. So sometimes merong like there's part of the journey na syempre napaplano mo. Yung for my case, naplano ko yung MS and yung work. Pero hindi ko rin inakala na magkaka-opportunity ako in founding a startup. Yun. And certainly it's a startup na really groundbreaking or really could make a change in the world. Ayun.
Okay. So, are there any questions from the audience? You can type it in the chat room or hindi ko yata na. I'll try to see sa Facebook.
Good afternoon po. May tanong po ako.
Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir. Matanong lang, yung masters ba, and if you're working, is there a minimum load na kailangan i-take kung nagma-masters ka? Or do you have to take parang a minimum required units para masabing master student ka? Kasi parang plano ko rin mang ganun in the future, yung sasabay yung work sa masters. Thank you.
Wala naman, actually hindi ko kasi alam kung pareho pa rin yung yung policies ngayon and nung kumukuha ako ng studies. Pero sa amin wala namang minimum, pero may maximum 6 units per semester. So actually yung 6 units na yun, minsan mahirap na yun. So minsan mahirap yung mahirap i-handle yung 6 units. So that's just papasok ka twice a week, one for each class, and you have requirements every week or every other week. So yun. So may mga SEM na ano lang ako, na hindi ako nag-enroll din, yung mag-apply ka lang ng residency. Nung nagte-thesis ako, nag-apply ako for residency twice. So yun, kasi hindi ko kaya yung pag-enroll mo basically nung 6 months na thesis, 6 units na thesis mo, in-enroll ko siya, pinaghiwalay ko siya sa 2 SEM, pero hindi siya enough, hindi ko natapos siya in 2 SEM, so nag-residency pa ako in 2 more SEMs. So until na gawa ko yung thesis. So yan. Actually, yun din yung curious ako kung paano kaya yung ngayon na halimbawa maraming nag-work from home. Certainly nung time ko, nung ginagawa ko siya, traffic really was an issue. Baka ngayon naman mas madali para sa mga students, lalo kung marami namang facilities for doing it online. So yun. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, based on experience, yung getting to class is a major hurdle sa mga students. So, if you are thinking of doing graduate studies, this is actually the fact na all classes are online right now, including graduate studies, is an opportunity because you are not required to get to EEE by 6 p.m. Malaking hurdle talaga siya for our graduate students because for other students, they have to ask permission from their employers to leave the office early in order for them to get to class by 6 p.m. So kung hindi sila pinapayagan ng boss nila, yun, sometimes they'll have to go on leave of absence first. Or sometimes me as an advisor personally, sabihin, I've had students na not MS, ME, pero yun na, part-time. Sabihin na, okay, this SEM, ito lang yung binigay na time off sa akin ng boss ko, Tuesday. So maghahanap kami, anong course na pwede Tuesday? Parang ganun siya. Kasi yun yun lang yung time Otherwise, hindi siya makakaabot sa class kasi hanggang 5 or 6 yung off nila. So it's actually an opportunity to a certain extent because of the fact na online na. Although I don't know next school year what would happen. So, are there any other questions regarding?
Sir, may isa pa palang tanong, but related to your talk. Since you founded a startup, what challenges did you face when it came to funding? Looking for funding.
So, ayun, malaking problema talaga yan, yung funding. So kami, yung naging approach namin is since the space we were working at is water. So, sa case na yon, maraming grants kang pwedeng ma-applyan. So, mas maganda yung grants syempre. Kasi minsan hindi naman sila naghahanap ng kapalit na equity. So, like, kasi yun nga, yung yung cost namin is like really for development development of the country and all that. So yun, yun yung mas naging approach namin is finding grants. Also kailangan din na yung business kasi namin is B2B. So, business to business. So, madalas and ang customers namin is water utilities. So, minsan, matagal yung, ano ba tawag doon? Matagal yung pag-process, like going through, like makapag-present ka sa kanila and then ma-approve, ma-convince sila dun sa product mo. Ma-approve and eventually bibilhin nila yung product mo. Minsan masyado matagal. So dapat if you would be going to B2B, dapat mas aware ka lang doon. Whereas kung halimbawa yung venture mo is like B2C, like sa customer, like you're developing an app, benta mo yung app mo. So mas mabilis yung ano, 'di ba? Yung income from those types of stuff versus mag magsisell ka sa isang company, sa isang government entity and all that. So yun yung for us. Nandun yung mga hurdles financially.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Ayan.
Any other questions?
Checking over YouTube, ma'am. Wala pa pong tanong na pumapasok.
Okay. Wala na yatang mga tanong eh. Or nahihiya pa sila. Mukhang, I think that's it. Meron pa ba? Ano, ito na yung chance nyo. Last chance for questions regarding the topic. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Greg, for that talk. Medyo, as he's pointed out, it's quite rare for us to have a alumni within that short span of time. He was able to juggle all three. He was working industry while starting up a company while doing his graduate studies. So medyo super determined talaga siya and grabe yung time management. But I think the common theme here was he was able to tie them all together. Although they were all different endeavors, they were all related to each other. They were all related to the water industry, and he was very passionate about it. So I guess just for those of you who are considering doing graduate studies while also working in industry, yes, hurdle yung time management, but it is, if you're really determined to do research on it, we would encourage you to tie it to your work because it makes it actually, ano, yung master's thesis mo bale, It can also be industry related. Okay, yun lang naman. Hindi siya magda-diverge na pag nag-masters ka is very academic lang siya in nature. They all actually complement each other. So what you learn in graduate studies will help you in your work, and what you learn in your work will also inform your graduate studies. So I guess we'll end here.
Okay.
And thank you very much,
Okay.
Greg,
Okay.
for your
Thank you din
time.
po, ma'am.
Um,
Sana may mga natulungan din ako sa mga students dito. If ever they will do something similar to what I did, or naging makapag-decide sila na okay yung ganong klase na yung pagsabay-sabayan, it's not for me, and that's perfectly fine. Syempre iba rin talaga yung magiging klase ng output mo if nag-masters ka lang or nag-PhD ka lang or nag-work ka lang. But I hope na may yung mga pinag-iisipan na magsabay-sabay ng mga bagay na to, may natutunan naman ngayong hapon. Ayun. So,
Okay.
yan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And anong oras na ba dyan sa Melbourne?
6:30 po.
6:30. Okay. So, I'll catch up with you another time.
Okay, ma'am. Sige po. Let's do that.
And yeah, hopefully in the future, if we request you to do another talk. Yeah, thank you very much
Okay, ma'am.
for
Thank you din po.
giving us your time and for sharing your experience with us. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Ma'am Joanna, and thank you, Sir Greg. Before I end the meeting, I'd like to thank all of those who joined us through Zoom, and also those of you who watch through our live stream on YouTube. Please follow and like the Facebook page of Triple EI so that you can be informed of other talks such as this. So, with that said, I'll be ending the meeting now, and maraming salamat po ulit. You guys have a great afternoon and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Greg.